Hi everyone, listen, just very quick introductions as to who everyone is. So this is Lisa Mulcahy. Lisa is a film director and TV director. She's up for nomination tomorrow night at the IFTAs for Best Director in TV Sitcom or Soap.
Soap
yes,
and
soap and
yeah.
For Red Rock. And on Friday, her second feature is coming out into cinemas. So everyone gets their passes to see Legend of Longwood.
Every week is like this for me,
every
really.
standard week. And of course, Emer Reynolds, who is an award-winning film and TV editor, as well as a director who is now currently assembling her second feature documentary, Farthest.
The Farthest.
The Farthest. Sorry, I kept getting that wrong earlier. So I'll leave it to the ladies. They're going to tell you a little bit about how they got to where they are and what path they took. But I think they wanted to be quite interactive.
Yeah.
So questions from the floor are encouraged.
You were going to mention your event.
And then just anyone who's leaving early, we have another event in November, because we have a monthly event, obviously, for all you fantastic members. It's the 17th of November, and it's going to be crowdfunding workshop with the producers of The Queen of Ireland, which is opening this Friday as well. But it's today.
I thought it was today, was it?
No,
Yeah.
today, and then it opens on Friday as well.
Well, hopefully they won't be competing
Well, they won't be
audience.
competing
Mine is
audience.
8 to 12-year-olds, so I'm hoping they won't be competing audience.
Rory's huge with 8 to 12.
There you go.
So as Ailish said, we were hoping we'd have quite a free-flowing conversation, because I think we really feel that the best thing is that if it's it's useful, if it's helpful, if we're able to tap into what everyone's interested in rather than kind of foisting our theories on you. So maybe we, feel free to join in or put up your hand or just no rude comments.
Yeah.
So then we at least have a chat about what we're all jointly interested in. So I guess I just wanted to say that Women in Film and TV Ireland is all about. What we're all about is about support, it's about networking, it's about the optics of women standing up and being visible and talking about our issues and, encouraging others to come forward or to get involved. So that's all part of this. So as part of this research or thinking about tonight, I ran the numbers because Emma Watson had put in the internet a few weeks ago about the numbers she'd ran about films she'd done. And so I ran the numbers for me and asked Lisa to do the same. And of 17 feature films I've cut, only one female director, only one female cinematographer, and only one female writer, and she was the same as the female director. So, the numbers are harrowing, I think, and in my view, it's about all those roles. It's about getting women in creative roles, cinematographer, designer, all those roles, directors, producers, everyone, just upping those numbers and the visibility. It's also about roles for women in the film, so that the position of women, women are seen by society in a different way and appreciated as the complex and vivid people we actually are, instead of sidekicks and one-note and sexualised beings. And also at women's voices, that women writers, women directors get to tell their stories, and that whole thing reaches a critical mass of the 51% and all that. So, well, I guess we'll just chat a bit about maybe can you tell us a little bit how you got started and how you got to where you are today?
Well, is there anybody here who's just starting off or trying to get into the film industry? So you haven't had any involvement or anything in...
Well, I've made 3 shorts and I've co-produced a Longwood feature, but the thing is I've had no money doing it, so I've just had to do total guerrilla filmmaking.
Yeah.
So I've kind of come here going, how do you get people to invest in you? That's what I really want to know.
To invest in your projects?
Yeah, so that I have money before I begin, because basically I'm just borrowing and stealing, literally.
Okay. And what's your experience?
I've helped in marketing for a web series and assistant producer now for a feature film, like Independence. So
Okay, but what do you aspire to do? Do you aspire to produce your own films, and you want to writer director? Okay. It's just good to know. I mean, I did a 2-year media course a long time ago, and it was basically a 2-year filmmaking course. It was unlike filmmaking course at the time, because there really was no kind of theory, or sometimes these filmmaking courses did French, do you know what I mean? It seemed irrelevant to making films to me. We just basically ran around with our Super 8 cameras and cut them, and had a little studio, and we just made lots of little films. But while I was doing that course, I realised we did everything on it, and I realised the thing that I liked most on it was editing. So before I finished the course, there was no mobile phones at that time. So before I finished the course, I was only thinking about today, I looked up the yellow pages and like film editors, I looked up in the yellow pages and came across like 3. I think one was Windmill Lane, one was Arthur Keeshan, and one was somebody else. And so none of them knew me or anything like that. So what I literally did was I went around and I knocked on the 3 doors. And when I went to Arthur Keeshan's door, I literally like knocked on his door, and he opened the door, and I said, "Hi," I said, I'm interested in editing. How do I become an assistant film editor? Or how do I become a film editor is what I said. And I think he was so, like, he was kind of in the middle of cutting something, and it was like the doorbell rings. And this short kind of young person saying, how do I become a film editor? Which obviously nobody had ever done to him before. And so he took me on as an assistant. And it was just an incredible experience, because at that time we were still cutting, as I said to you last time, we were still cutting on reversal. So we used to cut a Series 4T, an arts programme, and it was shot on reversal film. And reversal is, you have one piece of film, you don't get prints from it, it's your master copy of film, and that's what we used to cut. So you used to wear gloves, and if it got scratched, it got scratched. But you had to be really careful about it. But as an assistant, you were there the whole time when somebody was editing the film, because you had your trim bin there, and you would break down the film into the various sections. And so you were kind of like this very, very tactile process. So you were conscious of all of the decision-making process in relation to editing. And so I did that for a year. After about 4 months, he let me cut my first full programme on my own. Because he just was somebody who was willing to let me fly, do you know what I mean? And he knew that I had a huge enthusiasm for it, and I think that's really important, and maybe it goes without saying, but you have to really want it, I think, in this film and in the industry. And so I did that for a year, and then I went to London, and I knocked on where there are millions of post-production houses. Again, none of them knew me, and I just kept knocking on doors and walking around, and eventually somebody took a liking to me. Because at that time, you had to be in the union to get a job, and you had to get a job, you had to be in the it was catch-22. But anyway, somebody took a liking to me, and then I did that for a year, and then I hated living in London, so I left. And although I absolutely loved film editing, and anybody who wants to direct films, I really, really can't encourage you enough to do some film editing. It just teaches you so much about making films, about story structure, about how scenes work, about emotion. It's just amazing, and I'm sure you could talk for forever about it, do you know what I mean? But I just didn't really like being in a room on my own all the time. So I came back from America for a few months, and I decided I wanted to be an assistant director, to be a trainee assistant director. Again, I knew nobody who did it, so I went to the phone book and got all the addresses of post-production, of production companies who did commercials and stuff like that. And I think of it now, for 5 days in a row, I got these cards, and I drew, I had 15 production companies, so I drew 15 drawings, all the same drawing. And underneath, it was some cartoonish drawing, and underneath it was the start of a sentence, right? And so then I got on my bike, and I cycled around all the things, and I put the card in the door, right? So then the people came in the morning, they got this little card, and it said something. And then I did another one the following night, and they got a bit more of the sentence. And I did that for 5 nights in a row. So, and basically it was, I'm looking for a job as a trainee assistant director. But I suppose because I had approached, I'd completely forgotten about this until we spoke last night. I suppose because I approached it in a different way, somebody said, well, look, this girl. So I started to get work because I did that. And then once you get into the film industry, and I'm talking in particular when you get on a film set, I'm not talking really about producer or director, because it's a different thing, but once you get on a film set, whether it be as a runner with the assistant directors or a trainee with props, or really you need no qualifications, you just need to have the right personality for that job and a desire to do that job. I'm sure you could agree, it really, when you get somebody like, say, a runner, and you can tell within 15 minutes whether they're cut out for the job or not.
But you showed a massive amount of tenacity and balls to have the.
I think you do.
The confidence to knock on those doors.
I think you have to. I really think you have to because even in this, small country, there are a huge amount of people, there are a huge amount of directors, if I just think directors, competing for a really, when you take drama, a very, very tiny amount of work. Tiny. There's more opportunity, I think, you can disagree, in documentary, because you need less money, you need a smaller group of people to get that story told. But so there's a huge amount of people who want to be directors, and you absolutely have to just be really, really want it.
And how did you go then from assistant directing into directing?
So I assistant director on lots of films and trainee, and then I went to third, and then I did one job as a second, and I was an absolutely nightmare second assistant director. And I did Into the West as a second assistant director, and God love them and God love me, because it was a horrendous job as an assistant director. And then I started, when I was a third, I started, because it's kind of a normal process to go from third to first, really. A second is such a different job. And I was third in a job, and the first fell by the wayside for some reason, I can't remember why, and they just asked me to first it. It was like a kind of a 4-week job with Thaddeus O'Sullivan. And then I started to first. And then I firsted for years, and I absolutely loved it. It was a great job, but when you're firsting, there's this triangle on a film set, if you've ever been on film sets, where it's, you know, in a drama or a feature or whatever, and on a documentary, where it's the DP, the director, and the first AD, and it's those three people that kind of push that thing along. And I'm a bit sensitive to being AD, really. Do you know what I mean? Nobody saw first ADs cry on set until they met me. You know, because most of the first ADs, a lot of first ADs, quite a lot of them came from military backgrounds, and it made sense that they did, you know, because that's what it is. Really, you're like the sergeant major on the set, you know. You're absolutely the punch bag for everybody who's got moans and groans, who can't find a producer, so they go straight to the first AD. So it is a tough job, and that's why often you get, you know, men who have been ex-military or guys who are just absolutely tough as old boots, because you really have to be. And whereas I was really good at my job, I just was a bit too sensitive for it. And what ended up happening was that I'd work in a job where I'd just tell you, you'd have a terrific director and you'd have like an absolute asshole as a cinematographer, or the other way around. Occasionally you'd work in a job and everybody'd get on great, and they're dream jobs.
But when they're both assholes.
Yeah, I had some few of them as well. And I'm sure they might say the same about me, do you know what I mean? But it's not a job to do if you're very sensitive. It really isn't.
It was as a first AD that you encountered a little bit of verbal sexism.
Oh,
it's a great story.
I was telling Emer last night. I was just thinking back to when I became a first, because there wasn't any female first ADs in Ireland at the time. And Martha had started. I think she was doing locations before, and so anyway. So I started doing commercials, and there was a group of workers, I think it's safe to say that they were male, who really only did commercials, but they had been in the industry. They would have done films, and they would have done, you know, the Blue Max, and they would have done films, but at that stage they were mostly doing commercials. Most of them were grips, it was safe to say, although there was some electricians. Kind of the blatant kind of sexual harassment was majority came from electricians. But there was this one grip who, and I was the first AD, like I'm sure you've been on film sets and you've seen, like, you know, good first ADs in action and stuff. I'm not, you know, saying I was brilliant, but I was good at my job and I was focused, and I was the first AD. And this grip used to say, refer to me on the floors, well, the little girl said we had to do it. Like, it was just, when I think of it now, you know, the little girl, you know, and I was the first, you know, and it was my job to say, you know, we've 10 minutes, can we speed things up a bit, or what's happening now, why isn't that happening? It was my job to do that. But he just couldn't cope with a woman doing it. And it took years. It took years for us to come to a mutual arrangement that says, you do that and I do this. And we'll stop with the little girl comments, and then I'll stop, you know. Do you know what I mean?
And is it different now that you're directing? Do you experience anything like that on set these days? Has it changed?
As a director?
Has the world changed?
As a director, I just simply wouldn't put up with it. As a director, I think, I want a set to be a happy set. I want people to get on. I don't want arguing and stuff like that, because we spend so much time doing it that I don't want to. It's a difficult job, and I don't want people to be unhappy with it. So if there is somebody who would be causing a lot of tension on set, actors is a different thing because you can't really do a lot about that once they're cast. But if there's crew who are causing a lot of tension or difficulty in set, I would attempt to try and solve that now. Yeah.
But the blatant sexism is kind of washed out, or it's gone
underground?
Mean,
to be quite, it would be a brave person to be blatantly sexist with the director. I'm not saying it doesn't happen or wouldn't happen. I'm just trying to think, but certainly not in my experiences. I'm doing Red Rock at the moment. I've done a lot of that. Absolutely not. I have noticed that sets have become much, much more politically correct. Even sometimes I've had to kind of stop myself saying something. Yeah, I have noticed that. I don't know if you have noticed that or other people who are in set, but I have noticed that they have become much more politically correct from both sides. There's far less innuendo.
But not so politically correct that you're working with a bunch of cinematographers that are female, or
no,
it's still.
But I just the mood and the manner. The mood and the manner is, it's. I'll just say, having done say a lot of Red Rock and then having done Longwood beforehand, the mood and the manner is it's much more. This is a working place. We have fun and we enjoy ourselves, and I've had a great time. But yeah, I've noticed that there's a lot less. So it's a lot of young. Say in Red Rock, there's a lot of young people who are starting in the film industry. They might have started last season as a clapper loader, and halfway through last season already they're focus pullers. So it's a very good show to get on to bump people up. So there's a lot of young people, and I've noticed that they just don't, it's just a different thing. There isn't the sort of sexism that.
I think it's an age thing.
Is it?
With older crews, I think it's still there. Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Or people who've been around? Yeah.
So does that mean then that the world hasn't changed so much? The younger people are just more aware how to be politically correct, or that younger men are actually genuinely a bit more on side?
I was going to say a cultural thing. I think that I've just finished a job with crews that would have been around for years. Some of the people that Lisa and I would have worked with 20 years ago, they're still there. And it's the same banter. It's still the same banter. Do you know,
on set.
On set.
Yeah.
Whereas if
so
it's younger crew, I think it's just part of that age thing. It's just not so acceptable amongst that age group.
But that's nice. Yeah,
no,
that's nice.
Absolutely.
You're probably right. Of course you're right. Yeah.
To filter out. Do you know what I mean? I think probably will take time to filter out.
Yeah.
Sorry, interrupting.
No, that's good. That's exactly what.
And when you hear it or experience
it
or it's happening, do you talk to it, or do you confront it, or is it more of a?
Yeah, I do, and it's not just about sexism; it's about racism, actually, which I've come across. And I would be, so my children, my ex-husband's black, so my kids are mixed race, and so I would hear racist comments on set, particularly from older crew as well as sexist, and I would pick that up just as quickly. And there's a lot of that.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Prejudice. It's old-fashioned, older generation.
I think.
Prejudice. I just think it's still there. I'm not sure that's particular to the film industry, to be honest.
No,
but
I think it's just the age.
And it's funny. As I suppose, because you're kind of at the top of your game, if you know what I mean. It as you say, it would be not blatantly addressed towards you by new people, but probably if I worked with some of those lads, I'm sure, because they all knew me when I was training AD. Do you know what I mean? So I'm sure, it will not be quite pat in the ass, well done, but I'm sure, you're right, there would be.
It would be directed to me, usually, you'd hear it. It's stuff you'd hear directed, I think, with others.
Well, see, it's interesting, the conversation about sexism in the industry, is complicated, because maybe that blatant sexism is dying out or being washed out, but there's a more insidious type of sexism or misogyny where there aren't female leaders, or women's stories aren't getting funded, or, for example, I was telling Lisa last night in my case, the complication with sexism, it's hard to name it. Did you not get the job because you're female, or because you're just not suitable, or it's very complicated. It's a blurry line. My husband is an editor as well, and every job, every year, gets offered more money than me. Now, I think, justifiably producers would say, well, that's a bit of a bigger budget, or we see
it's very hard.
It's a blurry line.
Yeah.
But it's 10 years of always him being offered more money. unless we got offered the same job on the same TV series and he was offered X, and then you wouldn't be able to say it. Even then, they'd say he's got more this or more awards, or he's got more comedy, or So it's
I
a
also
blurry
think it's
thing,
like
isn't it?
subject
Insidious.
matter, because I did have a conversation recently with the producer actually, who's working on a big show which is all action, and she would sit in production meetings where they go, well, there's a bit much action here for a woman director.
I got to an interesting that I remember a job I was offered as a first AD. High Boot Benny was the job. Thaddeus was the director again, and we shot it up in Donegal. I remember this last night, and it was my first job as a first AD, a full job as a first AD. And we were shooting in, the fort up in Donegal. The old, is it Dunree?
I think it's just
Not Dunree, but it's an old army fort up in
Inishbound Peninsula.
and there is, to get to the top, there's a really steep hill, and the guy, he was very gentle, very sweet guy, but he said to me, do you think that you'd be okay with the hill, going up and down the hill? Now, you've seen me in action, right? It's like, it's not that I'm really sporty, but I walk fast, and I'm like that, because I would totally believe that the people would say about action. Now, I particularly wouldn't be interested as a director as doing a lot of action. It wouldn't bother me. Do you know what I mean? When I was going to do, my first drama was the football thing, the GAA thing.
On home ground.
On home ground. And the other directors were all men. And the 2 episodes I got were the big football match. And where all hell broke loose in the football match. And all the other directors were saying, thank God we're not doing that match. And I was like, I was kind of embracing it, you know what I mean? They didn't want it, but it's the closest thing you can get to a big action movie in Ireland. There's 2 episodes of On Home Ground.
I think, though, I read that I mean, that's a worldwide thing about women directing drama or directing action drama, that it's perceived as not particularly.
I wonder how
seemly
many
for
women,
or maybe women wouldn't be interested or wouldn't
I
be
wonder
good
how
at
many
it.
women are pushing themselves to do that.
Yeah.
And the action script, somebody told me a story, and I can't remember who it was in this room, but that they'd sent in an action script with as a woman writer not getting it, but with the male name getting it. Yeah. So they
No.
Yeah.
Here.
No, I told you this story.
that story.
There's a Scottish writer that I'm working with had sent out her script to a number of production companies, and it was a female protagonist. The script was the exact same, and it was a comedy. And it was about, I can't remember the exact pitch on the script, and she sent it out with a female protagonist as the central lead role, and it was rejected by everyone. And then she sent it out, just the name change. She didn't touch another word of the script. Just he,
from she to he.
She to he, and name change. And 3 different production companies rang her to talk about it. And I said, because I read the script, and I said, why is it? Because my first question was, why is it a guy? And she went, actually, how did you know it used to be a woman? And I went, well, there you go. It was really, really interesting. And then she says, well, I changed it because the market wasn't accepting it as a woman. I was getting it, she was only saying she wasn't offering it to me, she was using it as a spec. But she said the market wouldn't accept that.
How long ago was that?
That's about 18 months ago she sent it out. She sent it out and got interest about 18 months ago. It's still under option.
Yeah.
But did nothing with the female. She said literally the only thing I did was he to she and the name change.
Yeah.
Which is really disgusting that's still the case.
Yeah.
I won't take it personally.
Yeah.
Sorry.
There's nothing else in the script.
But it's interesting, and it does bring us to your conversation about how do you get funded. How did you get funded for a film with all these strong female, spiky young one who was kind of
This is The Legend of Longwood.
Yeah. How do women get their stories funded?
Okay, well, I had done 3 shorts, and the 3 of them were all Beg, Borrow, Steal. That's the nature of shorts. Well, actually, one of them was the Film Board short. Okay, so we did have some money. One of them was 3 minutes long, and it was in a cell. But it was still Beg, Borrow, Steal. And then the very first one I did, which was like a 26-minute short, which was a week on location in Galway, actually, and had like a big crew in it, and we had like loads of extras, and that was completely Beg, Borrow, and Steal as well. So that is the nature of shorts, and you kind of have to do it.
And am I right in saying that you probably got this crew because you were working in crews and you were a bit more visible?
Yeah, and
so it might be different for you.
And my producer and the guy who produced it he was a location manager. So we got loads of people. But I mean, I remember on that particular film, the writer coming in, and I was obviously full of can do, and she came in and said, look, she sat me down and she said, listen, I just don't want you to raise your hopes. You know, she said, because just this may not happen. This was to the production office that we had already set up, right? You know, and we'd found a production cost. I just don't want you to raise your hopes. You know, this may not happen. It just, you know, and my experience and my attitude is, well,
definitely won't happen.
You know, it won't happen if you got this. Like, you do absolutely have to have a can do. You're doing the right thing. You know what I mean? Like what I did, I was working as a crew member in the film industry, and I'm making my short films. I never had a burning desire to be a director. It was just when I was with an assistant director, and you're around actors all the time. That's what made me want to do that more, because I love working with actors. And also, I just ended up working with too many assholes, and we just almost had to make a break. I'm sure they would say the same with me. Same with me. So that's how I fell into directing. But you're doing the right thing. If you have a burning desire to do it, you will do it. You will.
And
you can't let anything stop you, you know, but you have to be absolutely driven.
Can I ask you one question? What about the women that went before you? Were they helpful to you? Did they act as a mentor, or did they do you down and, like that woman said, this may not happen?
Yeah.
Negativity.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like when I became a first, there weren't female assistant directors. There was one, you know, if there were female assistant directors, they were seconds.
Okay.
And, you know, seconds would be kind of traditionally, there's lots of male seconds, but it would have been more traditionally a female role. So there weren't women first ADs. Do you know what I mean? But I suppose I was just kind of a person that if I wanted something, I was going to go get it.
Anyway.
I you know, when I think of, say, women who would have had power in that area, say when I was trying to direct, Martha O'Neill definitely gave me a break. I tried to get in the first season of On Home Ground. She was producing it. I had done 3 short films, but I'd done nothing but that. And then I had done a couple of documentaries. And so I went in for an interview and I didn't get it. And then I went in the second time, and Mary Callery, who was in RT at the time, and Martha was the producer. And like, she definitely gave me a break.
Yeah.
It's not saying, I had just done shorts. And then when I did those 2 episodes of On Home Ground, I proved I could do it. And then Mary, I'm sure I don't know what the truth about it is, but then the next year, I was saying this last night, then next year Alan Maloney rang me and offered me to be the lead director on the clinic, which was the biggest thing that the RT had ever done. And in the phone call, he said, I'd like you to direct, they were doing this new series, Clinic, and it was a big budget, I'd like you to be the lead director. And I was saying, great. I said, do you want to see my CV? As he was offering me the job, I said, do you want to have a look at my CV? He's like, I didn't even have to pitch for the job, you know? So I'm sure Mary Callery had a big say. And, there are some women, I was saying, 5 months after I'd had twins, Mary Callery rang me and offered me a job. There is no way. Now, okay, somebody can disagree with me. There is no way a man would have rung and said, Lisa, I know you've had twins 5 months ago, but we've got this gig, will you direct it? It just wouldn't have happened.
So women can be great supporters of each other.
Yeah.
Women can also be our biggest critics, right?
Yeah, because I think a lot of it is because how tough it has been for them.
There's an inherent negativity.
Battle weary.
I find it factual entertainment side very, very difficult over the years. Submitting things towards you, then getting meetings, and particularly with the women. I'm not sure it's true that semi-state system or where they, but I found they were more or less saying, very good, we love the idea, but and then other projects emerge similar. You kind of feel because you're a woman and that they don't think you'd be strong enough, unless it's got.
And I wonder if it is that thing of that they've had to struggle so much to do it themselves. They're not.
I don't know.
The Margaret Thatcher thing, that they lose touch with.
I worked in RT, and when I went in there, we were the first tranche of female lawyers, and it would be like, oh, here the girls are coming, and you'd be like, I don't believe it.
But at least you have the power to sue them.
Big stag.
You weren't going to sue your employer like that. But there'd be people who you were going to do prime time or prime time investigates, and there would be people who would say, oh, it's the girls, or the girls are coming over, and you're like, And I kind of was from the era, Mary Robinson was President of Ireland, so therefore, I'm just as equal as any man who's as qualified as I am. And so that was the first time that I kind of really experienced that actually, even though 3/4 of your class were men in college, or women, you still, when you got into the workplace, experienced this kind of, the girls are coming.
Oh, we're still the minority. You know, we're still
not my profession.
No, but I don't mean. I mean, in any war, isn't it? Isn't it just an insidious thing of you're the other? You're not quite the mainstream. You're kind of, you know.
You're just not quite as good enough.
I mean, it does bring us round. I think we were arguing about it last night. I don't know what you all feel about positive discrimination or about those ideas to do with
quotas.
Yeah, maybe women giving women a better break, or the film board devoting some funds specifically to women, or you know, where do you all stand on that? Because we had a good round about it.
Well, in the public sector fields, I work in education as well, and there's a predominant female bias there. But in the public sector fields, particularly, there should be equal, at least at the ideas front. You know, there should be more. I think it's in the pitching of ideas, or that entry into it.
The female voice as opposed to the male voice.
Yeah,
there should be an equality to it.
Shifting, because for the good of the culture of the place that it's been funded by the state. You know, in the end, I mean that's
in the end, absolutely not the case in funding in Ireland. You know, there's no.
It's around 7%. And we're just looking at the Irish film.
I was just
frightening.
I was saying to Emer last night, I did an interview with entertainment.ie last week, and he asked me that question, and I've never been very good about, you know, women not getting supported. I've just always kind of put my head down and just done what I was doing, and you know, never been very good about engaging in this whole women and not enough women in our industry and stuff like that. And he asked me this question. He said, and what do you think about quotas? And my immediate instinct about that was, no, I really don't want to get me a job because I'm a woman. And then I just went away and I started to think, and I thought, you know what, actually, we've had a system right up until now, and we've seen how that system has worked. So then I started thinking, well, okay, why don't you introduce a quota system for, say, 3 years in the film board or something like that, or 5 years. And if the film board, after those 3 years, the film board come back and say, we did it, but, you know, there weren't enough women applying. Well, then it's the women's fault.
But then there's another question. Then there's a further question. Why aren't women applying? Why aren't women writing?
When I did film in college, and going in, it's hard to say. I said to myself, I want to be a director, but looking back, I didn't know, because I feel like you have to work.
Figure that out.
In order to figure out what you wanted. But I noticed by the time I got out of college, that had completely gone, and they just kind of pushed. They basically weren't teaching us to be filmmakers. They were saying you can go into camera, you can go into audio.
Yeah, there's an absolute obsession with the technical.
Yeah, exactly.
I think even when I'm working with editors, like, how can you learn to be an editor? You know, it's like, it doesn't seem to be support for women being directors or, you know, obviously this editor is very important, but there's an obsession with the technical and the women actually shaping content itself.
However, I've read a lot of reports that suggest, and I don't know if this is your experience, we're trying to tackle it as part of our education outreach thing, that women themselves in those colleges are stepping away and letting the male members of the team or the classes step forward. It is, and children do that in school as well, where they. You know, so
I think it is a much bigger. You know, it's a DNA thing. You know, it is a much.
Well, it's a DNA thing that's also socially influenced. Because I was looking at stupid thing, but you know, the open day in my kids' school, right? Sounds ridiculous, but the boys were handed the camera to go and take footage. Now the girls were kind of stepping back, going, I was going, please, some teacher have the smarts to give a girl a camera, because they'll ask different questions to the boy run around going, look at the football and this is happening. It's just an open day, you know, various things are happening. But, you know, there was no one going in to check out the kind of abstract dance. What it was a load of 8-year-olds. You know, it was just, they could see different things, but the teacher didn't go, right, well, we have to give one to each. You know, kind of, there was 3 little boys running around with cameras who were 10, which was fine. But I kind of said to the principal, I said, just give it to one of the girls and see what they come.
And what did the principal say?
She went, then maybe they don't want to do it. I said, well, maybe they don't. I tell you what, if you assign them that task, they'll want to do it. Because they're at that age where if you assign them a task, they just do. You know.
But there's a reason we have political quotas. There's a reason we have all the time in Europe. They're looking for the same. They want to bring in quotas for boards. There's in the European Parliament. There's every year there's always a motion to bring forward legislation at a European level on that. There's a reason for it. So what is it, and how do we get over it?
But it is working in Sweden.
I was just going to say.
So there's rumblings, I think it's interesting. I've been, this notion of do you do something for 3 years or see how it goes, and they brought them in Sweden, which is amazing, and the initial results and box office all seems good. But I've already heard men, but people giving out and saying it's not true, and actually there's been projects been turned down that should have been made, and so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Oh, there'll be blood on the walls. If you did introduce it, there'd be a sense of only getting funded.
Why not try it?
Yeah,
and I actually don't.
Yes, I changed my attitude completely, and I thought, well, actually, we know what doesn't work. So I
certainly don't think 3 years would do it. I just don't think
or
it would
5 years or whatever.
And I also think we'd have to establish what the criterion were, because if the criterion is box office,
no,
we're kind of buggered, because the Irish.
It can't be box office.
Exactly.
You could
So
make the most brilliant film.
So what are the criterion then? What would we find
The BAI
acceptable?
would have to do something as well. There should be a fund for.
Who?
If you're going to have a diversity fund, it must,
Surely, if the film board give money to 10 documentaries a year, production money to 10 documentaries a year, 5 of them have to be directed by women.
Now, the interesting thing on the documentary front is that because whether it is inherent in our being, women go, actually, I'll make that for nothing, so I'll try and make a documentary with that. So they don't. So actually, the film board on a person by person basis actually do fund a lot more female documentary makers than they do compared to female drama makers, and that is just because there's less money involved. And I think we all inherently go. Actually,
but the film board are funding documentaries more so than RTE, whatever. So the film board are actively pushing documentaries anyway.
But they are helping the situation. From the documentary point of view, I think it's quite positive. It's just for the numbers of directors and writers and producers that are female-led stories in documentary, it just doesn't equate across into drama.
Yeah, I think we need to support each other a lot more as well. I really do. Yeah. Women we need to support each other.
We can all start this Friday by tweeting about Lisa's film. That's only
Thank you.
Friday.
Yeah,
but we also
that sounds like a silly thing, but if people don't get bums on seats.
And see, the thing is,
dies.
And it's funny. I just got a copy. Sorry, I will stop talking about me. I just got a rough copy of the general consensus from the press, and the general consensus from the press. It's okay. All right, it's kind of, from my point of view, it's disappointing, but it's it's okay.
It's more than okay.
Yeah, brilliant. But when the kids go in to see it, the overall consensus is that they really, really enjoy it. Of course, not every kid, but they do really, really enjoy it, and it's kind of just a kicker because you've got 1 week. Like the distributors, they make 70% of what they're going to make on your film in the first week. So you've just got 1 week to get people in, and in the multiplexes, although it's going out in a lot of cinemas, but in the multiplexes, like, they are incredibly fickle. It's not art house, so anyway, it's like if it's not making money, you're out. But anyway, so yeah, please do tweet. But
for midterm.
It's midterm.
Yeah. Look, it's coming out at the perfect time. It's the perfect atmosphere for this time of year in the film, and we just see. But
I think just in terms of what you said there about supporting each other, I think it's a more root and branch thing. It's actually, we definitely have to support each other in optics and all that, but we have to, as women, be more brave, don't we? We have to start demanding the funding, start being brave enough to write stuff and say stuff.
You see, and as a group,
we have internalized this idea. Maybe we're not quite at the races, or but isn't that a systematic thing we can handle as women, as opposed to from outside?
I don't know whether there was a thing done here, because I know it was done in the UK. It was Skillset did it about maybe 5 years ago, of the drop at the age of 35 of the men to women that were going out of media. So I don't know.
Well, it's the same with Glow.
Yeah,
it's the same.
So is that
it's
is
the
that
same
working
with
mothers?
anything.
Is it motherhood? Yeah,
it's working mothers.
Massive issue. Massive issue.
Like
it's a massive issue.
On BBC spoke about it at the time. She actually got off radio and said, "I'm going because I'm not being supported of being a mother at this stage."
Yeah.
So there was a huge thing done about it, but that was 5 years ago in the UK. I haven't been here. I've been here away for 11 years, so I'm kind of out of touch with what's going on here. But
are you back?
I'm back.
Welcome.
But I was kind of like, I remember asking a couple of people that, going, what's the statistics in Ireland, because I'd say it's probably worse.
Oh, worse.
Oh, it's much worse.
There is.
And
I
it's
mean,
like, what do you mean you don't know?
but Ireland, to be a working mother in any field in Ireland is you do not exist.
Yeah.
You do not exist at all. It's
But they say that if you tackle childcare,
but
that it's going to change everything, and then persistently in every
they
budget
fail to tackle it properly.
Yeah.
What
But the
they
film
did in
industry
last
is
budget is a joke.
the film industry is a very specific beast.
It's
Childcare
difficult
won't tackle
anyway
it because of
with
the
childcare.
hours and there's a lot of seasonal work.
But
and-
also, I mean, I think without being on set from 12 or 16 hours a day or whatever, but I think the mentality here with what I'm noticing is Ireland, the Irish people are suspicious.
Yeah.
I'm suspicious of you. You're suspicious. That's the way we are, right?
Yeah.
But the UK are happy to let you go home and work at home. They're not going to go, oh, you're skiving off now. They're happy to, okay, I have to go home and pick up my kids and do that, but I'll get back on and do whatever the hell I have to do at 11 o'clock tonight. Fine, not a problem. Here, it's like,
I think it's changed.
well,
I think it's.
I do think.
I think it's getting better. But I mean,
Yeah.
I know I work with another woman. She's got a child, so we understand each other and we understand all the difficulties around that. But and certainly we work a lot with Scandinavian producers and their guys, and they're always panning around the Skype to show the kid on the couch homesick. And they're much better. But I mean, I certainly think as women we have to support each other in those. In those roles,
and funnily enough, I found myself sometimes like I would purposely not mentioning that I'd have children. Like I only just got an agent. Huh? I just got an agent, and I went over to see her, and in our email, I think I never mentioned my children or anything like that. And so anyway, we're there, and we were talking about The Legend of Longwood, and I have a 10-year-old and 2 5-year-olds, and. So, and I was saying, my daughter and Wally, and she said, did you have children? And I said, yeah. And she said, how many do you have? And I said, 3. And she said, what age are they? And I said, 10 and 5-year-old twins. And she said, do you think you're going to be able to do this? And I said, so, and I mean, she's a young girl, do you know what I mean? But, in a way, I can understand why she said it, because...
Is it a valid question?
Well, she wouldn't ask a guy. She wouldn't. No, she wouldn't.
But she doesn't have to ask a man because
she wouldn't have asked.
It's not going to be a massive issue for him.
What she said was,
it's arguable that it's a valid question. How does a woman, who's normally the primary caregivers, aren't we? Normally,
Well, it depends.
Most families,
most families are evolving to a point where
they are Eilish, but still women are, majority of the women are the primary.
I mean, I'm interested. How do you manage it?
No, she didn't ask it in a sense. She said that will be okay, will it? You know what I mean? She had to say it, but I mean, I said that will be okay. That was the end of the conversation.
I've actually generally found women same age or older completely get it actually on that level and don't tend to everybody's doing the juggle, everybody's doing that mad juggle, and they don't tend to.
But I said to her, I don't want to move over to England. A year ago I wouldn't have said that. A year ago I just wouldn't have mentioned the children at all. I said I don't want to move over to England. I said I'd be happy to do gigs here and there, but I'm not moving over to England. But that's taken me a long time
to have the confidence.
to have the confidence to say that.
Bye.
Thanks,
and I actually have to be able to say those things and be upfront about all of that.
Absolutely,
It has to.
You can be a film director or a film producer or whatever and have a family. You can. But a lot of women do drop out because there is zero support for women, working mothers. There is zero support. But you can do it.
So that's something as women in film and TV we can address, isn't it? We can come up with sort of ways that make it, that we do tackle these things that mothers are encountering all the time. Isn't it something we can do as a hard
simple solution? But if there's a network and a kind of a consensus about what the main areas and problems are. Exactly that. It's that pooling thing that
we just need to get more and more vocal about it all the time, and then the more they hear about it, the more somebody will.
And Una, what's the specific for an actress? Is it that women are hiding their children because it's a bit more?
I hide mine forever. I actually think in an audition it was about my children, and I just remember going, "Oh sweet Jesus!" And it was Louise was saying, "You have a 20 or?" And I was like, I could just feel that it's gone.
Is it a big issue for actors, Una?
I always felt, well, maybe I had my first child as a teenager, so it was always something that was problematic in the general state of Ireland, but I always felt, I had to just shut up and not talk about it. Never talk, and it was later I felt comfortable if I got the job in rehearsals. I'd say, I have 2 kids. But it was always like you, and they don't see them, because if you see them, you feel like can't do this, that's going to take away. It became a sort of inherent way of being, actually, until it was a safer, relaxed place. Maybe after I got the job, or not even at that point, but even in a group, even I'd be slow to say it on a set, or just in a cruise, and I'd just be very, I don't know how it happened. You just adapted this way of they're invisible in that world, because I felt sort of, I'm going to be judged. Am I going to?
Well, you're working. You particularly as an actor, you're working. I mean,
you got the requirement to look.
Just you're judged. You are judged all the time.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I'm not, as a technician or whatever, we're not really, you're judged as a woman, but you're not really judged, as much. But as an actor, I mean, it's dreadful. I don't know. Just for actresses, it's just dreadful.
I would say that a lot of my colleagues now are having children later in life. I know in general that is as well, but I always feel, this is a happy thing. This is a great thing. We all do this, we're all doing this, and our kids are here with us and part of it, and but I certainly have always felt that it's not something you really bring into the room.
I was just thinking last week, because we're on the 2nd season of Red Rock, and already I can see that a considerable amount of the female cast have lost weight since the last season, right? Like we did the clinic, and I understand it's it's much tougher than what I do to be an actor, I really think so. But when we did the clinic, we did 7 seasons, and the difference between some of the actresses from season 1 to season 7 was just unbelievable. I mean, some of them were emaciated by season 7. And I was thinking, if I put out a thing of an audition thing for actresses, anybody 10 or under need not apply. Who would I get? 25-year-old actresses, size 10 or under need not apply. Now I know that's been naive, but it's
a thing to do.
But it's terrible. It's terrible that actresses. I mean, as I was saying, the actress was saying to me yesterday, she was applying. A really good actress was on Red Rock, and she was going for a film, and the lead in the film was a man, an action movie, and it described his character tortured and all these sort of things. And then the character description was for her: please wear clothes that reveal your figure.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Oh my god.
But you get that constantly. It's like. Slim build, and it's description before the description of the actual character. It's physical description before.
Yeah, I mean,
what the character is even about. But as on that note, as a director, would you ever when you sign on to a project and you get scripts and you realise that a lot of the characters are guys, can you fight for?
Well,
say even getting a female actor to read in
on a show like, say, Red Rock, where they would have guest cast coming all the time, right? So you would, if you see a partner, they do have a good balance of male, female actors on Red Rock, and they have strong female characters. And I can see some more of the female characters are beginning to even say to take ownership a bit more of their characters and not actually put up with a lot of writers write stuff and they don't realise they're writing it. They don't realise that they're being sexist or whatever. They just don't realise until you point it out to them. Do you know? And in something like Red Rock, when you've got guest characters, I've said in the past, I said, well, can we have this person as a woman? And often they'll say, yeah, sure, why not?
Cool.
You just have to change. Something like Red Rock is good because there's a lot. They're doing a lot of guest parts, so they've gone in for 2 parts, And
so why, in your view, on the clinic and in Red Rock, are the women losing the weight? Are they being told? Is it
because
society?
Competition with each other.
Do you know what I mean? What's going on?
I mean, there are so many actresses. So many actresses. I'm amazed.
But they've already got the part. They're already in the job. Are they getting abused online for being?
No, I don't know. It's just because society, look at magazines and all that sort of. Society says you're not a good, great woman unless you're skinny.
But there's also this. I mean, nothing to do with our business. But somebody told me only the other day, a girl my age whose daughter is 10, and she said 10-year-old girls are not doing sport in school anymore because they won't get into the gear. It's not cool. It's not fun. They won't wear the tracksuits, whatever. End of story. And I was shocked. I was like, 10-year-olds. There's no way that 10-year-olds.
But you're right. It's been aimed at children so young. Like Gina Davis said, that's the great thing about female art animated characters, that their waist is so small. She'll be looking at it thinking, can I have my spinal column in there? So children are getting that, aren't they? From
sure. If they're starting that young, then by 20, I don't know.
They're starting when they're tiny, before they can even talk. They're just feeding it. So that is like a massive problem, that for some reason, to be beautiful, to be sexy, to be an engaging character, you have to be skinny.
Well, it actually does go to, the meta conversation, which is about why it is important to have female-led narratives, why it is important to have strong females on screen.
Jesus, start writing now.
No, but we really are influencing everything about society. That society will see women not as sexual sidekicks, but as complex and vivid characters, the way men are, dark, mysterious, funny, conflicted. Female characters are always much thinner. So we have this huge so we have this huge responsibility, don't we, to get women out there, get women characters on screen, get women making things. But men can be a great ally for us in this big adventure, I think. I was telling Lisa on my shoot, there was a female director, me, female producer, female production manager, female cinematographer, and I was saying to the sound guy, who's a gorgeous man, I was saying, isn't this amazing, all these women? And he said, oh no, this happens a lot. And I said, does it? And he said, oh yeah. And I said, well, have you ever worked with a female director before? And he's like, I'm sure I have, So but it was just like that he hadn't actually realised, like it just, some of this conversation is important because men are out there, they would be as offended as we are by the statistics and by the treatment, but they're just not as aware of it,
We talked about this a bit, we talk in Galway, and we talked about we're wearing funny glasses, and men are wearing them, but women are wearing them as well. But certainly in my 20s I didn't realise it was all very insidious. You don't really realise it's out there, this discrimination or the whatever, getting turned down for money or the different pay rates and all those things, and I think a lot of the guys would be absolutely up for being on the journey with us, and I think we just have to retrain.
It's about harnessing it, isn't it? It's about
and even the stuff when we get the statistics and we drill down a bit, and we talked a lot about Gina Davis, the fact-in scripts that are even in under 12 movies. They've all these studies that girls are outnumbered by boys like 3-1. So kids aren't getting to see girls in action in different jobs at the same rate they're seeing blokes. So they're just not getting to get any kind of role models from like that high upwards, and we, at least, there are things we can do. We can look at our scripts and say 50-50 at the very least on speaking parts, 50-50 in the extras, just to change that, because all of this stuff is going on and it's almost invisible. So there is some stuff we can do, even in the scripts and what we develop, even before we even hire anybody, And I actually was struck by what you're saying about the pay rates. What can we do practically? It's wrong. We're not getting paid the same. And I know there's a kind of and you were saying we tend to go, no, we'll make that for less. Oh, no, we won't ask for that much money. And as producers, I don't even know. I suspect what we might say to a co-producer if we're doing something, how much we might charge, is way below what the male equivalent would be charging, And so we just keep doing that to ourselves. So even staying in the industry is difficult because it's very hard to earn a living in this, So I think even sharing that information and trying to find
sharing information and saying, saying, look, what are you getting? What are you getting? You know what I mean?
Bradley Cooper is going to.
Well, that was
I think he said he was going to post what he was getting on a set. Compared to what the female is going to tell them.
Oh, great! That's why we need, in a way, men to come on board with this.
It's the likes of Jennifer Lawrence who can, she's after writing an open letter to Hollywood as to why she feels that she's been discriminated in the industry, but it's because she is at the top of her game that she can get away with that.
But did you see the next day there was a takedown, I think, in Deadline Hollywood, saying that she was factually wrong, not emotionally wrong, factually wrong. And they had, for the first time after her letter, bothered to check and see what everyone's pay rates were compared to how many days they worked. And she and Amy Adams were both paid $1.25 million, and Amy Adams worked 39 days and Jennifer Lawrence worked 19 days. And so the whole thrust of the article was not that Jennifer Lawrence had any point at all, it was that she had no right to speak because this was actually Amy Adams' fight and Amy Adams didn't choose to make it.
And they didn't put that against what.
Well, they love that, women. A cat fight is always a great way to.
What she has said.
Yes, she only knew because of the Saudi leaks.
Yeah. Sorry, this is just going to throw this out there. But now, Women in Film, this wonderful organisation that started, is there within us at the moment a creative sense that we're talking about sending away to this creating school, but can we create something within this
group?
Group, like even to develop a part of that, of what we are, into developing scripts? So we're handing away, I talk about the film board, I talk about BA, I'm talking about others, they're all others. Am I going, okay, can we do it in some way here to start
But part of that discussion is to try and hive off some of that money.
Yeah.
It is a quota thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the discussion is going.
Yeah.
But we could do something like the New York branch that the Women in Film and Television just did for the Writers Lab that Meryl Streep funded, which I applied for. Out of the 3,800, I was one of the final 50, but I didn't make it.
Well done.
Good for you, yeah.
Good for you.
No, it was very exciting because what is great about that program is that it was designed to be a path to production. So it's not just a go and get mentored, although you do get mentored, but they actually were designing it as a connection-making place, and the undertaking was that if they do basically help you make the contacts to get the film made, that you give back, I think, maybe even 0.5% of the total locked budget back to the organisation to help someone else next year.
Yeah, Red Rock are doing a lot of training. They did a big open day for people who were interested in being in the film industry. Just like even you didn't have to have anything, and there was I think they had 500 people, and they got HODs who would go and describe, well, this is what a location manager does, this is what a camera does, this is what, and they got the HODs. And then they said to the people, look, just write down what department you're interested in. And so they got, people wrote down, and so they're taking trainees in. I mean, they just took on, they needed a trainee AD, and this guy who'd put down, so was interviewed, and he's working, he's got his, he's working. Now he is in the film industry now, because it really doesn't take, as long as when you start, everybody, you can tell immediately if somebody's good or not. And so I was just saying that, particularly I was thinking, when Maureen was asking how you get funding if you want to make your own films. There is one, you can do it if you try to become a member of the crew, whether it's a runner or something like that, on a film, and because you generally don't work 12 months a year, and then you at least have that money that on the downtime it gives you it's one way of going about it, so that you can do a job where you earn money, albeit whether it's a trainee accountant or a trainee on the floor or a trainee camera or a trainee whatever, AD or whatever. But so they have a writer's room, and so they had, and it's a really good thing. John York has set it up, and so they've taken X amount of writers, and they're training them up to write scripts.
What's the percentage of women?
I think it's almost half and half. They announced the names, but the thing that blew my mind and a lot of my fellow writers is that they charge the writers for the Writers Academy
to attend the academy.
Something.
Yeah, I know one of the writers that's on it.
The protocol was what they didn't, which was lovely, and that's. That was great. But I thought the price was a bit. Steep. I didn't.
So what do they charge? It's a really intensive. Work. I know one of the guys that's doing it at the moment. It's a fantastic training ground. But as he said, he's writing a spec script, and he's paying for the benefit of writing the spec script.
Right.
Yeah.
But he thinks that's and he does get one-on-one feedback on it, and he gets to completely deconstruct it with script editors and people that are, so.
Well, I mean, it would be naive not to say that, I have worked on a ton of stuff where I didn't get paid.
Of course.
Because if I didn't do it, I wasn't going to get the experience. That's how I got experience as a first AD and stuff. That just is part of the film industry. But they also do, just in relation to directors, there was 4 female directors in last year, right? And I've asked who's coming. Hi, Kathy, it's okay. And I've asked this year, and I don't know of any other women coming up. I'm not saying there aren't, but I don't know of any other women coming up this year. And they're mentoring. So what they're doing is they're directors. They're mentoring directors because they're looking for directors. But it's a very tough gig. And so this block that's starting now is an Irish director, but the next block has got an English director coming in. Now, they're not paying him extra money. He's getting paid the exact same thing. He's got to do his own accommodation. But, it's just a shame, They don't want to do that. They want Irish directors. Do you know what I mean? And I don't...
Why is it a tough gig?
Because it's a really tough schedule. It's like 4 episodes in 8 days shooting. And I don't know if you've seen it. Well, the day before yesterday I had 18 pages a day. And if you look at Fair City and then you look at Red Rock, they're really two different animals. We make Red Rock like you make a television drama. It's called a soap, but we make it like a drama. Yeah. And that's everybody's. The actors are very good and stuff. I'm not saying it's the best thing in the world. It's not, but it's certainly not. It's certainly not Fair City. So it is really a tough gig.
Can I ask a question about it? I haven't actually seen it, but it seems to me, looking at the posters on the buses and everything, there's a lot of female characters.
Oh, yeah, there are. Yeah.
So where's that coming from? Is that coming from the funders down, or is it what the audience want?
Peter McKenna created it. I say Peter likes women. Do you know what I mean? Peter's very, he's very engaging. He's very opinionated, but he likes to have the discussion, the
conversation.
And are they
the full gamut of female complexities, or are they mothers and prostitutes?
Well, they would have lots
spanning
of
the.
Well, most of the main characters, because it's a police drama. So there's two families, and each family has 2 women in it and 2 guys. And then there's all the police, of which maybe you might have, I don't know, I can't remember, but I know half and half, or a little bit less are women. But I think Red Rock would aspire to being doing an equal opportunities. There's still some problem characters in there in relation to female characters and some of the male characters.
And the audience like it. I mean, the audience
it's got very good.
I mean, what I'm saying is they love this representation, or they recognise the world.
Yeah. So it has got very good press. But in relation to directors specifically, I would be very happy. I've never been asked in all my time as a director. I've never been asked by the Screen Directors Guild or whatever to mentor. Never.
Really?
Yeah, never.
I applied for several. The director never got considered.
Who?
Screen Directors Guild. I mean, they have some male directors that were mentoring, I think,
yeah,
for years.
But I have never been asked. And I mean, there's not that many female directors doing the volume of work that I would be doing here. There are others doing it. I'm not saying I'm brilliant or anything like that, but if I was a man doing this job and for this long, I said this to you yesterday, it would not be. I know I would be in a different place than I am now. I'm quite happy to be in the place I'm in. But I'm going to go back to, and I'll go back. I haven't actually spoken to the producers about what female directors are on this block.
You're the only female director.
Well, no, there will. Last year, there was 3 other female directors. I don't know if any of them are coming back. I don't know if they've been asked back. I don't know if they want to come back. I don't know.
They're not Irish.
Oh, they're all Irish. Oh, yeah, all the directors. The director who set it up was English, and there's an English director coming in. But they want Irish directors.
Good.
But you have to be able to do the gig as well.
Yeah.
They're wanting the directors to mentor potential directors, but you really have to have a certain amount of skills to be able to do that show. Whereas I would be quite happy to have somebody shadow me who definitely doesn't have the skills to direct the show, but definitely would be of benefit to them. Because as long as you have somebody who doesn't pipe up when they're not mentoring, that doesn't matter whether they're male or female. But you know what I mean? It doesn't matter to me if somebody else is in the room,
But shouldn't we, and we discussed this as well last night, shouldn't we as women be slightly giving the bias to other women? Or, if there's 2 people you could have shadowing you that you...
Yeah. No, I'm talking about women, female directors.
Yeah.
Well,
that's a good thing, isn't it? I mean, that's something we should be... Is that part of our philosophy, that we have this bias built in? Is it okay? It's okay to confess to that?
If you look at the UK, they do a brilliant mentoring scheme through women in film, really excellent, and they go and it's not just with females, people who are at the top of their game. They put them with producers and directors and actors that are all at the top of the game, regardless of gender. But it is just to give them that extra support and someone to kind of knock about with, to get to the next level. So that is on our long-term plan.
Your mentoring comes up huge amount of time.
Everyone, and we might have to ignite that slightly earlier than we had intended, but
the technology is there now for it should be a great period for a phase for women in film and for other filmmakers from different types of filmmaking to be emerging. So the technology is there.
Yeah.
The funding should adapt, or we can do it now. you know, the capacity is there, and also the pressure is there to bring down budgets and facilitate, you know, but not to the extent that not just the same representations are all the time, you know, coming through.
So we have a plan.
We have a plan.
Very good. No.